I don't know where you are, but down here it just got cold really fast. And it's times like these that, of course, I regret ever installing a heat pump in my home. My weather app says it's -3 out here, but feels like -6. Hopefully that frost comes through. Now, why oh why would you regret installing a heat pump? Well, it's because they just don't keep the house warm. And they cost an absolute fortune. And they're just so noisy. I mean, listen to it. Oh, hang on a minute. Oh, I can only hear the neighbour's boiler. That's actually what's making the noise. You long-time viewers to the channel, you know that I'm just joking. I love my heat pump. Let me talk you through the reality of the last few days of sub-zero temperature and having a heat pump keeping our home toasty and warm. Let's use some data to demonstrate some of the claims made around living with a heat pump. There's some things that are subjective, and then there are some things that are just totally objective and cannot be refuted. So if you want to hear about the reality of living with a heat pump without any vested interest from someone who does not work in the industry and has lived through 3 winters of heat pump life, then be sure to subscribe to the channel, and you might want to share this and like it and comment below. Thank you. So I've got my trusty phone with a Valent app on it, and I've got a calculator to help us. Let's go. Today is the 20th of November. I'm going to start walking you through the data from the 17th of November to demonstrate how much it really costs to run a heat pump when it gets very cold and how that would compare to a typical modern gas boiler. So on this graph we're looking at from November the 16th, you can see the dotted line on there. That dotted line is the external air temperature, and you can see how it just plummeted. And we went from averaging, 10 degrees comfortable weather down to approaching 0. And it was the 17th where it plummeted once again. On the 17th, we used 20.8 kilowatt hours. That is less than £1.50. That's for our heating and our hot water. And what was the coldest temperature it got down to on that day? Well, it got to exactly 0, I believe. Yep, 0.3. You can see different times of the day. And what was it here? In the morning, between 7 and 8 a.m., it was 2.8 degrees outside. Pretty chilly and difficult conditions for a heat pump, right? On the 17th, we achieved a COP of 3.1. That means that the heat pump generated 64.5 kilowatt hours of heat energy that went into our domestic hot water and went into the space heating of our 4-bedroom home. Now, if we divide that 64.5 by a typical condensing gas boiler efficiency of 85%, so we would need 75.86 kilowatt hours of gas. If I then multiply that by the gas unit rate of 6.5 pence, that same day would have cost us £4.93. So a modern gas condensing boiler at nearly £5 for that day, whereas it just cost me £1.50 for my heat pump. And just before we move on to November the 18th, let's look at the actual internal temperatures. You can see in the later part of the day, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m, we were at 21 degrees, but you can see at 5 in the morning, the house was 19 degrees. And in fact, the temperatures now throughout the house are pretty consistent. So that is every room in my house, the hallways, it all runs at that same 21 degrees. If you want to go back and watch some previous videos of how I achieved that, I'll put the links for you. So living with a heat pump is warm, it's cheap, it's comfortable. Is it noisy? Is it inconvenient in other ways? Behind that wall is the heat pump. It's directly behind that wall. Now, these French doors, these windows all around here, these are all triple glazed. But despite them being triple glazed, there's a trickle vent right there. And see that trickle vent is open? I have no idea if I'm getting any of this on camera. Basically, there's the heat pump right there. There's a trickle vent right there. This wall, the pipes from the heat pump are mounted on this wall, and then they run all the way along this wall. And so if there was any compressor noise, vibration noise, we would not just hear it, we will probably feel it. This is the perfect space to do a noise test in our home. We just don't hear it. If you are sat, I'm pointing as if you can see out of the camera. If you're sat in this one seat, sorry, I should have cleared up this room. My wife's going to kill me that I made a video without tidying up the kids' mess or my own filming mess. If you're sat in this one seat where the trickle vent is, and there's no TV, there's no other noise in the house, and you sit here in silence, then you can detect when that heat pump is defrosting. Aside from that, you don't know it's running. You can go and stand in front of it and you get some freezing cold air on you, or you have to check an app, or check the wall controller, check one of my apps to see what the consumption's doing. So what about November the 18th then? 28.3 kilowatt hours and only a coefficient of performance of 2.69. That is one of the very worst days that we've ever had for running our heat pump in terms of the efficiency of it. So that day would have cost us £1.98 in electricity. And what were the temperatures like on that day? Well, look at the dotted line. You can see that we were below zero, minus 1.6, and that was the part of the day where the heat pump is working quite hard, trying to generate our domestic hot water and then bring the house back up to temperature. So during the coldest part of the day, the heat pump was having to really work hard and it was consuming a fair amount of energy. But this time I've highlighted here in yellow, that's between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. You can see that our heat pump used 2.4 kilowatt hours. Now, the label on our heat pump, it says it's a 7 kilowatt unit, and that may scare people. Oh, it's gonna absolutely kill me. It's gonna be taking 7 kilowatts. You can see that even in the hardest conditions, doing all of the things, it only used 2,400 watt hours of energy. So if we use 28.3 kilowatt hours at an efficiency of 2.69, that means that we generated 76 kilowatt hours of heat. We're going to divide that by the efficiency of a gas boiler of 85%, and it means that a gas boiler would need to consume 89.56 kilowatt hours of gas. We're going to times that by the unit rate of 6.5 pence, and that means that the gas boiler on that day would have cost us £5.80. As you can see, the gas boiler about 3 times more expensive, even when my heat pump is struggling to be efficient. November the 19th is very much the same story, exactly the same consumption, 28.3 on both days, but on November the 19th, slightly better efficiency, an efficiency of 3. Let's see how the temperatures were on that day. There you can see the temperatures were a bit warmer when the heat pump was working through the morning, and then they only plummeted into the evening. That's when our heat pump is backing off a little bit, not working quite so hard to maintain the temperature. And once again, you can see that in the warmest part of the day, we are up. And most of the day, we're around 20 degrees. The temperature dropped to minus 0.8. And then this brings me to today, November the 20th. We have an incomplete day. We've already used 19.6 kilowatt hours of energy. And as you can see, we've still got a very long way to go. What was our lowest temperature? Minus 2.7 degrees recorded by our temperature sensor outside there. As you can see, it is warming up. And luckily, it's a very sunny day, so we're going to have solar to run our heat pump all day long. Indoor temperature is 20 degrees and rising. Very comfortable for myself. Okay, enough of those numbers and figures. I think you get the point that if you've got enough battery storage, you've got solar panels, you've got a heat pump, you're absolutely quids in. But what if you don't have those things? What do you do then? Can you really just utilize a few smart tariffs and still be cheaper than gas? Well, yes, I believe so. Pop down in the comments below. I know I've got loads of my viewers that are on tariffs like Octopus Cozy, and loads of you out there that are managing without any battery storage, without any solar panels at all. Let me know how the sums add up for you. Now, I've just popped into my SunSync solar inverter here so you can see what it's up to. At the moment, the home, which is about 100 to 200 watt base load typically, and then it will be
between 1300 to 1200 watts that the heat pump is consuming. And you can see that solar is covering that at the moment. And it is slowly charging my battery, which at 9:30 in the morning, the battery is already down to 59%. That is a little bit scary. On this confusing graphic here, the blue line is the state of charge of my battery. The purple section is the battery either charging or discharging. The green section is solar, and the red section is the load, so the demand of the house. So this shows us actually how much the heat pump has used. That's all that stuff out the way. A lot of those things are just objective figures and facts. Subjectively, living with a heat pump is the best thing ever. The humidity in our home is reduced. It is just constantly warm. We don't have to mess around and touch thermostats. We don't have to tweak settings. Once it's set up, it does its thing. Even though I love to try and tinker and tweak things and stuff, you don't have to. Just know that you will always come back to a warm home all of the time. And if, like me, you're someone that works from home, you are really going to appreciate it, because heating my whole 4-bedroom detached house with the heat pump is the same as running a little 1000 watt little fan heater. This is now my 3rd winter with a heat pump. I have full confidence in it. Never had any issues. There's a couple of changes this year. Number 1 change, battery storage, which is going to make it considerably cheaper to run. It's roughly going to half the price of what we were paying last year, even though I was playing the games with the tariffs and up and down and overheating the house at night and all sorts of things. This year, we're just going to leave it, let it be stable, let it do its thing. And the other change is I've turned the radiator on in the garage, and the garage is an integrated garage. And already I'm noticing the knock-on effects in the neighboring rooms, but also the 2 bathrooms that are on top of the integrated garage. And that reinforces that principle that HeatGeek has educated us on. Within the thermal envelope of the building, just heat all of the spaces. I don't notice a huge jump in the consumption. I have flicked back to last winter to look at reference days where there's similar sort of temperature conditions. And fortunately, turning that one radiator on in the garage doesn't seem to have made really any material difference. It's great living with a heat pump. Would I recommend it? Unreservedly. Do I think heat pumps are the future for almost all homes? Yes, I do think so. And now with the government opening up access to the bus grant to those people considering air-to-air heat pumps as well, I think that will cover pretty much all bases. If you can't have an air-to-water heat pump, which I think are amazing, then air-to-air heat pump may be the solution for you. And that's going to cover the vast majority of people. Thank you for listening to my ramblings and my waffling. What do you think? Why do you think that heat pumps are fake news? Why were you drawn to this video? Why am I still talking? This is me signing out from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Goodbye.